Hello, and this is hopefully going to be a shorter version of my first one, which was 24 minutes long. This is astrobiology. You're actually talking about life someplace other than this Earth, or maybe life that actually isn't what we expect life to be. Astrobiology is the study of life in the known universe. It investigates the origin, evolution, distribution, and future of life on this planet. The search for life beyond the Earth, and it addresses three fundamental questions. How does life begin? Like if we had a planet that didn't have life, how do we terraform it and actually put life on it? And then once it's there, how does it evolve? Is there life actually out there somewhere that we can study, utilize, dictate, or which will actually dictate us? And if there is a life, because all my kids have actually learned about extremophiles, how the heck do we detect it? Do they give off carbon dioxide? Do they give off oxygen? Do they need the right pH? Would we be able to feed them to actually figure out if we can get them to grow? And then what's the future of life on this planet as well as life in the universe? Astrobiology.arc.nasa.gov is a great site to actually learn more about astrobiology. Okay, this site I like because it actually talks about the Big Bang and the formation of things after the Big Bang all the way over to the formation of DNA and life as we know it. Starts out with cooling of the Big Bang, incredibly hot temperatures, but very soon after that we started getting subatomic particles. We got atomic particles, got molecules, then it cooled down and we had big gas clouds. Some of the gas clouds came together to make galaxies, beautiful spiral galaxies, irregular type galaxies, whatever else, but large accumulations of stars. In the stars there were large nebula. This is actually the Eagle Nebula, M31, and this is part of the Eagle Nebula. It's actually called the Pillars of Life, or the Hand of God. And at the very tips of these little pillars, astronomers think we actually notice that there are illuminated blobs at the end, which may actually be the formation of stars. The way stars form is the nebula comes together and we get this swirling cloud, just swirling around, swirling. The inside becomes the star. These guys are what are called protoplanets, become the planets. They're going to sweep the area clean, all traveling around in a beautiful counterclockwise direction like our solar system, where we get planets and we get moons and we get comets and we get asteroids, and eventually we get larger and larger molecules, starting from atoms to small molecules to larger molecules, some of them actually even being organic, which needs carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, maybe even nitrogen, phosphorus, and some others. But these are organic molecules, things that actually are not created by life but could actually be associated with life, as well as the DNA molecule. Gary Larson, Far Side, couple of aliens coming in, flying a UFO and zooming through a city where we actually get all these people having basically just going crazy, and they're having all kinds of fun going yeehaw. I did that a little louder on the other version. Geologic Time, we have a calendar, December 31 at this end, January 1st at this end, and we just go through the months into February, into July, into October, all the way to the end. We have the formation of the Earth 4.6 billion years ago, and very soon after we have the formation of the ocean. What we had is probably had this great big molten ball of magma and lava, and what happened is water vapor started to come out and started making clouds, and the clouds precipitated back down. Raindrops never made it down to the Earth because it was so hot, but every raindrop that didn't make it down cooled this planet, and then we started getting solid rock, which probably didn't hang around very long, probably melted back, but again, that cooled off the rest of the Earth, and then pretty soon we had this layer of dark rock, and the rain got down lower and lower and finally hit the planet and started to accumulate in oceans. started filling in the low areas, and probably somewhere around 200 million years later, we started getting oceans. And then 3.8 billion years ago, we actually got formation of life. These are what are called stromatolites. They live in shallow oceans. They get into dry air during low tide, and high tide they're in the water. They're blue-green algae, and they just basically make, and this is the fossilized one, they just make layer upon layer, getting taller and taller and taller, of layers of rock material holding the blue-green algae in place. These are fossilized stromatolites, some of the oldest fossils on the planet, 3.8 billion years old, and they come about right there. Now they're going to produce oxygen, they're going to produce sugar, which will be food for other critters. Life gets more complicated. We're actually still in what's called the Precambrian because it happens before the Cambrian period, which you can see right there, pre-before. Life gets more complicated as we move up. And then we move into the Cambrian. We do get an explosion of life happening right here. And the neat thing about the fossil record is life does get more complicated the farther you go on. It's not like everything down here was the way it is today. There seems to be this progression. We have very, primitive life and not a whole lot of it, and it just keeps getting more and more complicated, more and more basically complex with time until we go all the way over here to December 31st. If you look on this side, we have life only in the oceans for a long time. We have the age of the invertebrates, so we had jellyfish, starfish, sea urchins. Then we actually get into the age of the fishes, very primitive fish, probably didn't have much of a tail, but did have some fins, maybe had some sort of an optical eye and had a mouth for ingestion. Then very soon we had life climbing up on land, probably plants first, but then we had these fins that actually worked sort of like legs. They popped out. And again, life started taking over land. Then we had forests, really funky trees, more like palm trees. But you'd definitely identify them as trees. And then we have the area which actually produced the coal. You guys can figure out this is 200 million years ago. And we're showing basically this part of it now. So you see this line. And this line, it's the whole thing. So right around 550, 540 million years ago, we have the Cambrian explosion, and we get first life, and we get first life on land, we get creation of the forest, we get the last trilobites, those critters that actually were found all over the planet. They had a really jointed appendage, they had antenna, they had eyes, but they lived every place on the planet. For a very short amount of time, probably just this area right here. It's called an index fossil, which basically means it was found in lots of places on the planet but didn't live very long. So if we actually find a rock with trilobites, we know that it actually is somewhere between 250 and 240 million years old. We have other species like dragonflies, which started here and basically live today. So if we find a rock with a dragonfly, it could be 200, 100, 300, 400, 350, 380. It could be a whole lot. Index fossils, really nice to have. But if you go through, we actually have the last trilobites. We have the first primitive mammals forming in the age of dinosaurs. And as they grow, they get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and then they get huge, and then they actually start getting smaller and smaller again. The ones that are actually located here, elephants 2 and 3 times the size of our elephants today, and sloths and tigers and lions and bear, but all much bigger than what we have today. So we have the first birds, the first flowering plants, the first horses, the first arthropods, and then finally up here, somewhere right around 11, scratch that, somewhere right around 23 hours, 59 minutes, and 50 seconds, we have the formation of the humans. So we're around 10 seconds in a whole 12-month period. Haven't been around very long, and look what we've been able to do. Okay, we get around 100 tons of meteoritic dust falling on this planet a day. Meteors coming in by the gravitational pull of the Earth, most of it evaporating or being incinerated by our atmosphere, but it gets added to our atmosphere. Some of it make it down to the planet, but 100 tons a day. At the end of a week, a month, a year, that can come up to a tremendous amount of new material. We look out there and we find those nebula, like that Eagle Nebula that's up there, and we find water in nebula. We find carbon dioxide, we find methane, and we find even maybe sugar in these things. So these are all organic molecules that we now associate with life, but maybe didn't start that way. SETI, this is supposed to actually say SETI, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, is a corporation in California that actually has large radio telescopes set up to some frequency, sort of like channel 13. But they've actually set their telescopes to a certain frequency, and we're listening for radio messages, TV messages. If there is intelligent life out there, maybe they're sending out I Love Lucy reruns, and if we can actually listen in the right direction and we can listen at the right frequency to pick up channel 13, we may actually find intelligent life. Okay, this is the fossilized stromatolite, oldest fossil on the planet, 3.8 billion years old, which goes all the way down there. Okay, Stanley Miller in an experiment took primordial gases, which we can actually find in rock. We can find in ice bubbles, but we actually know what the atmosphere probably was 4 billion years ago, with methane, ammonia, water, more methane, more ammonia, hydrogen, helium. And he took a closed container, put the gases in there, put water in there, started heating up the water so water vapor goes up, put electrodes in there to show lightning, and he actually got these things to start turning into other material. He wasn't aware of it yet. Put in cold water, and the cold water got in here, actually cooled off this. That's how we make clouds. It condensed. It got warmed up, but what that does is cool the sample that's in there. Started forming drops. Gravity pulled it down to this small little U-shaped trap, and he started noticing within a few days, he started noticing that there were things forming in the water. It started getting cloudy, and as time went on, a few days later, it got even more cloudy, and it actually started turning kind of brown, sort of like you'd expect a swamp to turn. And then he drained this stuff out, and he found organic molecules. He had abiotic, something a little better, abiotic, non-living material, and he still had abiotic down here, but at least these were organic. These are chemicals of life. Amino acids, urea, which is like urine, lactic acid, produced by mussels and yeast as a byproduct of their cellular respiration, acidic acid, vitamin C. So he started actually finding these materials inside this, so maybe it's capable of taking life. Very soon with these things, we can actually put them in a container and we can get what's called a nucleic acid created with a phosphate, a sugar, and a nucleic acid or a nucleotide. And it actually makes a nucleotide. And if we put the nucleotide in a sample, they actually start forming this natural framework, which we call an RNA molecule. Things like adenine, uracil, guanine, and cytosine in any particular order. And you can see C's, G's, A's, G's, A's, U, U, G, C, A, and it's a G, A, C. And then a very simple step, we get what are called complementary pairing, where we actually get the opposite, C's and G's, G's and C's, A's and U's, G's and C's, A's and U's, U's and A, U and A, C and G, G and C, A and U, and C and G, and they actually come together. And then another step, we start making a backbone, a two-stranded nucleic acid chain, very similar to DNA, except made out of RNA language. And then the next step, maybe not too difficult, where this unzips, and then we get the complementary strand, and we actually make two of them. So it's now self-replicating. The first cells, taking that, putting it into a fat layered membrane with a water-loving section and a water-hating section, so we can actually make extracellular, and we can make intracellular, so we can actually have water outside the cell and we can have water inside the cell, and we can have the cell membrane that separates. And then we can actually enclose the RNA, this self-replicating RNA inside, and then an easy step after that, we can make it multi-celled, where we can put them together, and then from multi-cell, making DNAs, again self-replicating, we can make prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells, and then from eukaryotic cells, there's a process called endosymbiotic or symbiosis, where we had a large eukaryotic cell. It got so large that it had a tough time actually making products that can come in and hit the inside, as well as waste products going back out. And maybe for a while it actually got a restraint to the size of the molecules, or the size of the cells. But then there were these other cells that were out there, and we had cells that actually liked to breathe, basically making what's called ATP, the energy of life. And we had other cells that actually like to take in sunlight and make sugar, which is the basic food for life. And then we had this bigger cell saying, hey, come on in, you oxygen-breathing, oxygen-loving, ATP-producing, and sun-absorbing, sugar-creating prokaryotic cell, come in here, and then I will give you everything you need, including protection, and all you have to do is give me ATP, or food, sugar, which is the C6H12O6, glucose, and you give me that, and I'll give you protection, I'll give you the oxygen you need, I'll give you the energy, or allow you to get the sunlight that you need. All you have to do is give me ATP and give me food, and we'll both be happy. And it's called endosymbiosis, or endosymbiotic theory. Another way of actually looking at that: step one, large bacteria minding its own business, small prokaryotes not knowing exactly what's going on, the large one actually saying, come on in, water's warm. These guys may be not happy because they think they're being eaten. We don't know what's going on in step three, but they start actually feeling protected, they start getting materials from the cell, and then we finally end up with the cell being happy because it's producing food, or it's producing ATP, and now we actually have what's called the eukaryotic cell. So large bacteria, small prokaryotes, symbiosis begins, cooperative living begins, and then step four, the prokaryotes are one with the eukaryote. It's a Zen situation. I'm also going to show this TED video. If you go to TED.com, search for protocell, you can see the same video. It's a cool video of taking abiotic things that actually look like they're being alive. And then another site that actually shows really good pictures for that first picture that's up there, starting with the Big Bang and going all the way through the formation of DNA. Be careful of the text. You can see it's ChristTheHumanist.com. The text is a little weird, but the pictures are amazing. All right, well, thank you very much for stopping by, and appreciate it. Bye-bye.